Hi, I'm Becky Lubinetsky. I'm so excited to share 4 easy steps to powerful reading lessons with you today. So we're going to cover some general ideas of how to structure your reading lessons for the most meaningful results and specific things you can implement with your class right now. Okay, so here are those 4 easy steps. The 4 points that I'm going to cover in this guide will lead you through making some decisions with your students in mind. So you can follow the tips to inspire your students' love of reading and really empower them to grow as readers every single day in your classroom. Your reading instructions should reflect you and your students, so all of these ideas can be altered to fit your class needs and personalities. Let's make reading the best time of the day. I'm calling these steps, but there's no specific order to using these in your classroom. So let's look at step number 1. Choose books that reflect your specific students and their interests. So when you're choosing a book to read aloud to your class, this is an incredible opportunity to show them something really special. It's so important for students to have experiences with books that show people who are like them. Even the smallest connection can really help students feel validated and important, like maybe the family in the book eats the same dosas as them for breakfast. Books are also a chance to show students parts of the world that they don't regularly encounter where they live. So take a moment, pause me, think through this list in terms of mirroring your students' lives and experiences. Jot down some notes on what to look for in text. While it's good for children to see that books mirror their lives and circumstances, it's also enlightening to offer a window into how other children live. So now pause me again, reread this list, and think about it from that perspective of windows and the possibilities of what you could expose your class to. Like if you live in the sunny desert part of the country with cactuses outside your window, read books about children who live on the Midwest prairies or dense forests of New England. Does your school have multi-generational households or families with foster children? What holidays are celebrated in other parts of the country or world you could introduce? So take down some notes of things you think of, or even while you're watching a movie or TV, notice things that you could expose your students to and reflect about how it relates to their lives. A good place to start when thinking about how to access all these different types of books is your local public library. Librarians are extremely knowledgeable and can recommend specific books about all these variety of topics. They're often willing to work with you to source books from all over too. And this will really help there be a consistent cycle of new books flowing into your classroom. There's a lot of pressure to buy books or use the books that are already in your school book room or library, but don't forget about these community resources that you have available to you. In addition, there are tons of videos of people reading picture books aloud online, and that's a great way to preview some books and access them to share them with your class. So step 2, if you're able to implement reading centers in your classroom, I am a huge advocate for how they can increase engagement and empower your students to take responsibility for their growth as readers. It's an incredible tool to elevate the success of your students. So my philosophy on reading centers is that they're a tool to deliver specialized instruction. The term reading centers can refer to a physical area that is set up for a specific learning goal or activity. This might look like a table for a small group who works with the teacher, while other students are working independently on center activities throughout the room. The term reading centers also refers to a way in which individualized instruction is delivered. I believe that these two things are intertwined, and that's what makes reading centers so successful. So people groan and think that reading centers take so much time to get ready each week, but they can be as simple or as complicated as you want them to be. It's important to customize your reading centers to fit both your teaching style and your students' learning preferences. The key is to use a method to streamline the process of planning and prepping so that you are consistently delivering that individualized instruction without making more work for yourself. So reading centers are an opportunity to empower learners to take responsibility for their choices. They can make choices to guide their learning based on needs and interests. Let's look at this list to give you some ideas. So I'm going to go through each one of them and give you some examples. So manipulatives can include letter stamps, magnetic letters, character figures, Play-Doh, anything. Ways to show understanding can be through a picture, a script, a news broadcast, even an essay. Text topics and genres should be chosen based on their interests. Even just providing 2 options for a student gives them a feeling of power because they're able to choose which one they're more interested in. Early finisher projects can get really creative and work on a skill that the student's really passionate about. Like if a student really loves sharks, their early finisher project could be making a brochure for an aquarium telling all about shark facts. So the format of learning can be used as a choice, but also a tool to differentiate between the centers. All centers shouldn't be digital, all shouldn't be worksheets. Variety between the stations will help students be excited when they rotate and switch to a new center. So where to start? Start simple. If you're new to centers, ease your way in and see how you like it. I have 4 free vocabulary activities in the PDF download with this training for you to start and try out right now if you want some idea of where to get started. All right, step 3. Model and encourage ways to talk about text. This is a really powerful tool to use in your classroom. The best part is you can use it with any lesson and any text. So maximize that listening comprehension. So when you're choosing a book to read aloud to your students, it doesn't have to be on all of your students' reading levels because the teacher is reading it. I refer to this read aloud as shared reading. And this is an opportunity to use books that could be considered easy for some students or too challenging for other students and reach everyone with a really meaningful lesson. So while reading, you pause and use think aloud sentence starters to show purposeful ways to comprehend the text. Encourage students to use the same sentence frames to help build consistency and understanding of what the reading strategies mean and builds their confidence for talking about text. So here's the steps that I go through for how to model that using those sentence phrase. These are written in your PDF too. So I'm going to show you some examples of how this is used with the story. So here's an example for using that I use for making inferences. So the sentence frame for inferences is I can tell blank because blank. So I have all the fiction sentence frames listed for you in the PDF download. So as I'm reading, I would pause. I would look at the picture, noticing Piggy's tears, and then I would say, I can tell that Piggy feels sad because there are tears on his face. So as I'm reading the book with my students, I'm modeling the appropriate way to stop and think about what I'm reading. I encourage them also to use this as their watching me model and thinking about the text themselves. So this is an image that I've shared on my blog and social media, and it's really helped people understand the best way to use the modeling time in shared reading. So each week I focus on one skill so that it's only one sentence frame that we're practicing. So this is how our shared reading looks throughout the week. So by the end of the week, the students are really the ones responding and talking about the text, and they're really leading that discussion because they're so confident in how to do it and what it should look like. And they've practiced using that sentence frame every single day. Right, step 4. Discuss social emotional vocabulary with every book. Yes, every single book you read every day. So social emotional learning is something that has vocabulary words the students should be hearing all the time. This can be easily worked into any lesson with any text that you're using. So there's 2 types of social emotional reading lessons. One is using a book that's specifically written to show the social emotional learning skill. These are the ones we all use at the beginning of the year. They show kids calling out and not using self-control. And we talk about why self-control is important. And it gives you those examples of the good and the bad. And that's the perfect way to teach those social emotional words to your students. But the other type of social emotional reading lesson is with the books you're reading every day that are not necessarily meant to be related to social emotional learning. So these are the books that just have a story and they have these hidden magic moments in them. So when a character falls off a bike and gets back up, you point out that that shows perseverance. So this can be part of your daily routine, that you're just working these little comments, pointing out these moments in the stories. You can work that in every single day. So these books are really gold mines for social emotional examples. So make it part of your routine that you notice these character traits in the characters of the books. The stories where students are interested and care about the characters leave a lasting impression with these in-context examples of these social emotional skills. It also brings the book to life. So don't only mention social emotional vocabulary like respect, responsibility, honesty when you're reminding your students to show it. Use these words every single day to reinforce their meanings with all different types of text examples. Normalize hearing those words. So if they do need to be reminded to show that skill, they know what you expect of them. They know examples, they know what you're talking about, and they feel comfortable with that word. So here's an example of how I would use that formula in the context of a story. So look how Arthur went to sit with DW after she didn't win the award. He is showing empathy because he knows she must feel sad. So I'm pointing out what happened in the story and I'm just bringing in that social emotional vocabulary. Another example could sound like, wow, look at that act of kindness that Isaac showed when he asked Asher if he wanted to play. Asher was standing alone on the playground, but now we can see in the picture that he is smiling and happy. So just the simple act of working in these words, even one word each day with your story, it's really going to solidify for your students what these words mean and make it part of the daily routine and expectations to use these words and to show those skills too, because they want to be like the characters in the book that they admire. Thank you for stopping by today. Your students are so lucky to have an educator like you that cares so deeply about their success. Every effort that you make to bring them meaningful interaction with text and reading skills really makes a lasting impact. So use these ideas as you see fit in your classroom and your teaching style. If you ever have any questions or I can help you in any way, please reach out to me. There's many ways that we can connect. I'm so passionate about transforming reading instructions into energizing, inspiring experiences for little hearts and little minds. And I hope you join me, and I can't wait to work together.